And at the time, there was Skype, and Skype wasn't that great a technology. So I became one of the first Zoom customers in 2016. So I like to say I was Zoom before Zoom was cool.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we will be discussing the struggles and the lessons learned along the journey of a seven-figure entrepreneur. It's my pleasure to welcome our guest today, Mark Nolte, with Start Talking IO. Mark, welcome to the call.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. Mark, without further ado, please share with us your story as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner. Where did you start from? Where have you gotten to? Maybe share a few key lessons learned along the way.
Yeah, so my name is Mark Nolte. I'm the CEO and founder of Start Talking, and we do behavioral counseling or therapy by video, so what they refer to as teletherapy. And we have 300 therapists located in 43 different states, and we're doing 1,800 therapy sessions by video primarily. And so people always ask me, they go, well, are you a therapist? Like, no. It's like, well, how did you get into this business? And I tell people, so back in 2010, I was actually diagnosed with depression. But I tell people I was one of the lucky ones because I went and got help and now I live a much happier and productive life. But the hardest thing at the time was to go park my car in front of the psychiatrist's office, which was close to where I worked and lived. And then to go in the lobby and wait in the lobby and go like this, hoping I didn't run into somebody, that I knew. And I thought there's got to be a better way to get therapy. And at the time, there was Skype, and Skype wasn't that great a technology. So I became one of the first Zoom customers in 2016. So I like to say I was Zoom before Zoom was cool.
Like that.
And so I talked to all these therapists for 4.5 years saying, this is the trend, this is where it's going, you need to get on board. And all these therapists are like, Mark, it's just a fad, it'll never take off, I'm not interested. Well, then March 2020 hit, COVID hit.
Right. My
My phone started ringing off the wall because these therapists could no longer see their patients in the office for the next 2 years. They knew that. And the therapist would call up and say, hey, Mark, you know the teletherapy thing you've been talking to me for 4.5 years? I'm ready to do it now. Can you have me set up by noon today?
Right.
And, so we went from doing 20% of our video, our therapy sessions by video, to 97% in 4 months. We quadrupled in 4 months.
Wow.
So I like to say that I was at the right time, at the right place for once in my life, because they were predicting that teletherapy, video therapy, wouldn't surpass in-office business until 2024 this year. So because of COVID, it accelerated that process ahead of time by 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, probably still 95% of our therapy sessions are done by video. And I had 2 therapists that were working downtown San Francisco in the financial district, paying $5,000 a month for office lease.
Wow.
And now they don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I talked to a lot of therapists after 2 or 3 years of doing this, and I said, well, how do you like teletherapy? They go, well, I didn't think it'd be a very good thing, but now I really like it. In fact, I canceled my long-term office lease because of that. And even here in Denver, Colorado, where I am, it's going to be $1,500 to $2,000.
Right.
Well, they had to make that money before they, paid themselves. Well, now they don't have to do that. And then also we did a pilot program where we looked at the effectiveness of teletherapy versus in-office therapy.
Right.
And we found out there's a 30% less cancellation rate with teletherapy versus in-office. And the reason is I don't have to drive to downtown Denver, pay for parking, get a babysitter if I have young kids, to go see a therapy session. Well, if Joe's lucky enough to have a therapist in a small town, the last thing Joe wants to do is go park his pickup truck in front of the therapist, Dr. Smith's office in downtown, small towns. Everyone goes by, hey, Joe, we saw your pickup truck in front of Dr. Smith's office. Are you going crazy or something,
Right.
So guess what? Joe doesn't go. But if Joe can get in his pickup truck, you get on a smartphone and have a therapy session, then the stigma is taken out of it and no one knows he's getting therapy.
Right.
So, the 30% less cancellation rate means more revenue in the pocket of the therapist. And then it's easier. For instance, Joe that lives out in Western Colorado, he doesn't have to drive 3 hours into Denver to see a therapist. He can do it right from his home or smartphone type thing. So it opens up all these avenues or whatever type thing. So it's been interesting to see the adoption and how fast it took off. And people ask me, so well, how's COVID been for your business? I go, well, I hate to say this, but it's been great.
Right.
It accelerated the process. One of the things I learned about therapists is that they're really good at what they're trained to be, and that's to be therapists. But because they're not trained to be business people, they're not very good business people, and they're even worse marketers of their practice. And therapists have this fear of coming across as what they refer to as salesy, like come across as like a used car salesman or whatever.
Gotcha.
I've been a sales rep all my life, so I have no problem with that. To me, it's like we just point out the benefits of getting therapy. That's not really selling. So we take over that process. And people always say, well, Mark, who's your customer? Well, we have two customers. We have the therapist who are, not good at marketing. Their idea of marketing themselves is putting their business card on the bulletin board at local church or something like that.
Right.
And they don't want to do that. It takes them anywhere from 2 to 5 years to build a full practice. So we take care of all that for them. So I started this business back in Kansas City, where I'm from. Yeah. And I started with 8 therapists here in Colorado in 2017. And now we're, like I said, 300 therapists in 43 different states and doing 1,800 therapy sessions a month. So
wow. Yeah, I'll bet. No, that's fantastic. And I love your intentionality around, hey, I didn't enjoy this experience myself personally, so there's got to be a better way. And so right out the gate, you're like, I'm going to solve this problem that other people are having. You kind of touch on the basis that a lot of therapists don't like selling because they don't want to come across as somebody who is pushy or salesman. But really, I love what you said is no, it's just, hey, understanding the customer or client's need and then finding a way to solve that. And you did that yourself, right, ahead of time, which is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Now you talk about you do all these other things for him in-house. So aside from the 1099 actual therapist, who else helps you do all the back-end stuff?
Yeah, so we have a team of 6 people. We have myself, the CEO and founder. We have a CTO. We have a director of clinical services. We now have a company called Concerto, which is an accounting firm. So we're practicing what they call GAAP. And one of the things I get, is people say, well, gee, Mark, you don't have a co-founder. And let me share my experience with that. I had a co-founder at one time. In fact, he's still a part of our company, but it just wasn't a fit. And that doesn't make him a bad person or whatever. We're still friends. He does our he's actually our CTO. But what I learned about having a co-founder is it's kind of like being married.
Right.
Yeah, you're not raising a family with her, but you're still, in a business together, joined together, so to speak. And, so you think, okay, I got this business and this idea. So we're going to get married, so to speak, before we date, so right. You don't know till after the fact. It's too late. It's just not a fit type thing. Right. It was actually incorporated in the state of Kansas. We dissolved the corporation at the split, and then I moved to Denver here, incorporated the state of Colorado. And so my director of operation kind of acts like my co-founder, if you will.
Okay.
He does, we're like a team. He takes care of certain things, and I do other things. And so people say, well, Mark, you're hypocritical. You don't have a co-founder. Well, it's not because I don't want to. It's hard to find somebody. It's like finding a spouse to marry and raise a family with. It's not, not everybody can. But if I didn't have the director of operations, it kind of was my quasi co-founder, whatever, kind of fills that position, I wouldn't have grown and be where I was or am today.
Gotcha. Well, that's fantastic. I love your intentionality around understanding, hey, if this isn't going to work, then there needs to be somebody else who's offsetting that function. And so taking your director of operations and having them do that, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Great, great. Um, as you continue to grow and you saw this need and you transitioned, what were some of the challenges that you experienced as you were bringing in new team members and bringing in all these 1099s? What did that look like?
Well, it's interesting because it was a lot easier when there were only 50 to 75 therapists.
Right.
And when you have that many therapists on board, you're dealing with different personalities, different, again, I'm not trying to say anything bad about therapists, but they don't understand the business aspect.
Right.
We feature their profile on the website. They've, we do all the marketing stuff. Well, that takes time and money.
Right.
And so, we get people who come on board and they quit and they think they should get more money or whatever type thing, and they don't understand. As long as that's, less than 10%, it's really about 5% for us, because if you're not careful, they're gonna suck up all your time and energy.
Right.
You just have to understand there's going to be 5% that could be just like that. You just need to get rid of them and move on. And the other thing I've learned too is, as I used to do the recruiting, I couldn't afford to be picky.
Right.
But I learned through the process I should have just cut bait way back when. I knew that the dating wasn't going very well. Just putting their best foot forward, I knew it was going to be terrible after we got married or signed a contract, so to speak.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I love your intentionality around that, because so often too few business owners realize, hey, just as people are picky about choosing who they're going to buy from, purchase from, whatever, you need to be picky about who you're going to do business with. So I love your intentionality around that, because most small business owners, when they first start out, it's like, hey, I'm going to take any business I can get. Whoever's willing to do business with me, I'm going to grab them up. So I love your intentionality of saying, no, I'm going to get real clear on who it is that I want.
Right.
So that it's a good experience both ways.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So, and the other thing I was going to share too is that, and so anything that grabbed my attention is like, okay, well, let me go over here. Well, no, I'll go over here. Oh no, let's go down this path. And you're spreading yourself too thin. You have no idea, and you get distracted. And finally, we came with this employee assistance program, and that kind of, now we're narrowly focused. We know what we're going to do, but you have to be careful that you're not the dog with chasing the squirrel all the time. And what I've found is that if you can just at least get a minimum viable product for very little money and very little time, and kind of go to the market and see, one, if there's a market for it.
Yeah.
Two, if it's going to work. And three, when you go to market, you go, I wasn't even aware of, I knew about, and that's really where the money is. So I'm going to trash this, minimum viable product that I spent very little money on, and go after this other market. And, we're going to find out that there's, this opportunity.
Yeah, no, love that. Love the intentionality also around saying, hey, I'm going to go sell this before I start investing the large amounts of money to build it. Because exactly like you said, a lot of times as you're selling, you learn that, hey, I need to pivot or adjust because the market's not what I thought it was. Or like you said, I may be in the total wrong market. It's harder to do that if you invest a whole bunch of money into the product and build it out first. Like if I'm going to sell something and I bring in a whole bunch of inventory and then I go out and realize, oh, I can't sell that. It's better to do it the way in reverse. No, I love your intentionality about that. Fantastic. Well, as you started bringing in employees and building your core team, before you started going crazy and bringing in all those 1099 employees, what did you have in mind for the kind of growth that you're going to experience? Did you think that it was going to go from the 75 all the way to 300 overnight like it did, or were you thinking it was going to be more like of a steady, slow increase?
Yeah. So one of the director of operations I talked about, he was did the EOS planning, the
Uh-huh.
5-year planning type thing. And for those people that may not be acquainted with you've heard the old saying, you begin with the beginning in mind type thing. So what you do is you say, okay, in 5 years I want to be here,
Right.
and then you work backwards there. You go, okay, from that 5 years I'm going to do a 3-year plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan, a 6-month plan, a quarterly plan, and a monthly plan. And so did we intend to do this? Well, that was always our intentions, and we had certain financial goals and certain goals as far as recruiting therapists. And yeah, I'm proud to say that yeah, we intentionally to be where we are. Now I will say that um, we bootstrapped up to this point. We're in the process of raising $1 million right now, and people always say, well, everyone's wearing 2 hats in the organization. It's like, no, everyone in our organization is wearing 5 hats.
Yep.
And we've kind of bumped our head against the ceiling. Now, we can still grow organically, but we've kind of gotten to points like we really need an influx of cash in order to accelerate to that next level type thing. And so that's been a whole interesting process. We've got a $250,000 commitment already. We just need to raise the other 750,000. But if we get that influx of cash, then I think we'll even expand even more type thing. And then my goal is to sell it in the next 3 to 5 years.
Gotcha. As you start to go through that process, you're raising the money and then you're going to start bringing the employees on. Have you thought about creating a future org chart of what reality is going to look like in the next 3, 4, 5 years from now?
You mean as far as employees
Uh-huh.
or? Yeah, so we know that we need to hire more salespeople. We have a that is a licensed therapist that practices therapy. So she kind of manages our therapists, but we also need another position like that would actually do some of the growth as far as looking for new insurance companies and growing that way and understanding that.
Awesome. No, I always like to bring that up with businesses when I hear them talk about, hey, getting ready to see that growth, because like creating that future org chart or taking the time to think it through like you just did, it gives you an opportunity to say, okay, now I know who I need. Now I can start thinking about timing of exactly when it makes the most amount of sense to bring each of them in. Or, if you're doing the capital funding and get this large amount at the same time, then you can just go out and hire them all. But it's strategically saying, okay, what makes the most amount of sense and at what point, so that I make sure that I'm intentional about this instead of unintentionally bringing in too many people at the same time and then
Right.
Running out of cash and get myself in a bind. So
Yeah, and so yeah, we know what we need. We need the influx of cash, and everyone's. I'm the only direct employee of the company right now. All the other 6 staff members or 5 staff members are 1099s. Of course, the therapists are as well.
right.
Going to employees is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Becoming a W-2 employee, and then we're going to offer stock options to the current staff members or whatever type thing, and that'll be a whole different ballgame as well. So. And it's frankly, it's been easier doing 1099s than trying to do employees at this point.
Gotcha. No, that's exciting. It's always exciting to get to that point where you're gonna branch off into unknown territory and start to do something a little bit different as you continue to see the growth that you like. So no,
Right.
I'm super excited for you and your company as you begin that. Well, awesome, Mark. I have thoroughly enjoyed this opportunity to get to know you a little bit better and learn about your journey and your company. You're doing fantastic, great things. You're providing a great service, not only for the individuals who are seeking that clinical help, but also for those physicians that can now, like you said, they can ditch the overhead costs of physical brick and mortar location, and they can get down to doing what they want to do from the beginning, right? And just focus on the
Right.
patients and working with them. So what a great service you're offering.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that, and thanks for the kind words, and I appreciate you doing the podcast with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, for those who are listening in on this episode, Mark, if they want to get a hold of Start Talking or get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, so you can send me an email. It's just my name. It's mark.nolte@starttalking.io. Again, mark.nolte@starttalking.io. Um, or you can also look me up on LinkedIn. Yeah, it's just Mark P. Nolte.
No, love that. And this concludes another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. If you heard anything that you like, and you're like, "Ooh, I need to do that," paid attention to the intentionality that Mark's taken as he's built this company and continued moving forward. Take action on it. Don't just think about it, but actually put it into action. You won't be disappointed in the results. And as always, if you heard something today that you're like, "Hey, I know somebody else that could benefit from listening to this," please, by all means, share this. Let's create as much value with as many people as we possibly can. Well, thanks again, Mark. Appreciate you being on the show today. And for everybody else, take care until next time.